What does a decolonized classroom look like to you? Like, can you paint us a picture? What do your classrooms look like, and what methods do you use?
Well, I think the first thing before it becomes decolonized, one of the things folks have to recognize is not only the advent but the spread and the ubiquity of colonization. How in its many different forms. And that's the first thing is to kind of talk about. What is colonization? What happens during the period of colonization when an external entity comes in and begins to manipulate, invade, and to control your agency to think, to produce, to react to things that may be harmful to others and yourself, right? I think for me it's a lot like I would compare it to groupthink in a way. Colonization is really like a lot of groupthink, where people know something is wrong, yet they self-censor because they don't want to be ostracized or isolated from the group, right? They want to be part of the group. So I think that's the thing is understanding, with a decolonized classroom, what does it mean to be colonized, right? And there's a saying, I work a little bit with horses and horse people, like equine psychotherapists, and there's this horse trainer. His name is John Lyons, and he said, the strongest halter in the world is in the horse's mind. The control of the horse is in its mind, and that's kind of, I think Stephen Bilko said that too as well. The strongest aspect of colonization for the oppressor is the mind of the colonized, right? And so it's reading some of those books, like that, introducing students to the book like The Colonizer and The Colonized, any of these kinds of books that help sort of develop a context for understanding what colonialism is. And then to begin to move towards understanding what decolonization is in its many different forms. There's the sort of the clinical health decolonization of viruses and bacteria, right? Which is very similar to decolonizing in human populations. So it's that sort of thing, is understanding those two first aspects, kind of really, really operationalizing, those and conceptualizing them really well. Like, what does it mean to have these different levels of colonization, decolonization? Another thing that I've done is I've created a linear equation for decolonization. And the linear equation kind of spells out different kinds of things that need to be done in order to reach the level of you know uh, for example, it may be in my equation I have like decolonization equals you know mind body, right? Mind body, with a subscript on there, how many times, or what does that mean? I won't go through to explain it because it's pretty hard to explain, but it's like each one of these pieces in the equation has to do with empowerment, has to do with realization, has to do with soul searching, has to do with in different ways colonization, and part of it is also the period of decolonization. Well, it goes in phases. Let me move from that equation to phases. So in the model that I've developed is the first phase of decolonization that I talk with students about is purification and cleansing from these colonized ideas about white supremacy, about privilege, about stereotypes, all these different kinds of things, all the things that have been created by colonizing forces that have been instituted, in programs and educational systems and in language and laws and so on. Right? It's a lot like settler colonialism in that sense. And having students outline those different kinds of things that they see that they need to cleanse from. Then moving from that particular circle and model, then you move down to, say, to the right, and there's another circle or another level of decolonization, and that's the level of Renaissance. And I talk a lot about how Renaissance, that we have to rediscover traditional ideas, practices, lifestyles, and any of those kinds of things that prove to be helpful to Indigenous people and all people, really. Like rethinking our relationship with the environment, rethinking our relationship to, you know, all sentient beings and animals, rethinking our relationship to community, and so on. And then there's a lot of different kinds of things that Indigenous people have used, like songs, ceremonies, different kinds of, you know, symbols, whatever it is that, you know, they want, that need to be resurrected again for the purpose of supporting, you know, who Indigenous people are, and anybody really that you know wants to kind of spend their time in decolonization, right, or to decolonize. The final phase of the model then is what I call the period of enlightenment. And the period of enlightenment, you know, is the period where we develop practice to begin to give our mind a sense of creativity and to begin to look at new technologies, new ways of thinking, new ideas, new approaches, any of those kinds of things that will help us or enable us to begin to move towards transformation and enlightenment in our world. So there are many of those too, right? I mean, right now I've been having a lot of discussions with folks about the use of AI in social work, you know, and understanding what is it, what can it do for us, right? Um, how will it help us? How do we need to kind of understand it will challenge us, right? And most of the models that I think are healthy models kind of look at, well, there's one way to look at AI, and AI is going to be in charge of everything at some point, right? That's what they call singularity, when the machines. Otherwise, it's over here where the people are, and the people continue to kind of manage, you know, world affairs, you know, using their limited creativity and their way of looking at the world, right? Their limited abilities to kind of foresee and understand, you know, trends and those kinds of things. Or there's the hybrid model, like we've always done as human beings. We use the technology with the human together and sort of work, co-evolve, you know, and create solutions and so on. We've done that, you know, all the time. We meet a new group of people, and here we are. We sort of co-evolve together. We discover things that we didn't know, and they discover things they didn't know about us, and we share those technologies and the ways of theories and thinking and philosophies. We've done that with animals, right? You're in Alaska long before, you know, there were skidoos and those kinds of things. People give dogs to travel, right? So dogs are kind of a form of enlightenment for human beings, so technology as well as, you know, companions and so on. Way down south here, you know, my tribe, the Arikaras, we encountered horses about the 1500s, and that was something that, you know, we had never seen a horse before, but we engaged the horse, became part of our families and who we were. It was a different technology. It wasn't just the horse acting on its own, but the human and the horse coming together to create, you know, a level of transformation and transcendence of our current state that made us, you know, changed us in some ways for the better. In other ways, horses are used for, you know, warfare and that kind of thing too as well. So we have to always consider those possibilities. Anyway, that's kind of, you know, really a bit about what neurodivergence would look like, you know, in my classroom. Those kinds of discussions would really be deep, and they would be have a lot of, you know, breadth as well, depth and breadth.